the 80th anniversary today from this meeting. Just to recognise that we can't be everyone. Can't be out there this morning. Okay.
We're recording.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Democratic Services Committee. Before we do anything else, I have to read out a little bit of housekeeping, and you all know this. This committee meeting is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with Local Government and Election Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside Council standing orders. The Council standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times, and members should conduct themselves accordingly as always. Please can those attending online switch off the cameras and mute the microphones when you're not speaking to ensure unnecessary background noises. No unnecessary background noises. Can I also remind members to ensure that the chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch on your camera. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translations of this proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the council. Thank you. Thank you for your patience while I read that out. We're all aware that today is the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings, and as a sign of our respect for those who gave everything and those who gave the ultimate everything by sacrificing their lives, we're going to have a moment of reflection. And so even if you're home, could you stand for a moment of reflection, please? Thank you. Okay, item 1, apologies.
Just Councillor Metz.
Thank you. Any further apologies? Item 2, declarations of interest. No, if we have any, we can declare as we go along. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. They're pages 3 to 6. Everybody had a chance to read these, and yes, Councillor.
If I might draw your attention to item 6, please, Chair.
Yeah.
I don't believe it accurately reflects the discussion last time, and the conclusion by consensus that we wouldn't be looking at this again until into the next council, as it's been debated twice in this forum. I could ask the body see if they can amend the minute. I mean, we will check the recording. I mean, the consensus was not to take it forward then. I don't remember the discussion about it being left until the next council, but we will check that. Thank you. Yes, like I say, we'll check that, but that's not my recollection.
Any other items on the minutes? Do we have a mover? With an accurate record? obviously with the alterations if required.
Yeah.
Moved by Kath, seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Okay, it takes us up to the model constitution update, and I think that's over to you, Mike.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as I mentioned last time, work on implementing the model constitution has commenced. I've spent a bit of time on that. Unfortunately, what I haven't been able to do is distill that into a written form to present to committee or to senior officers for that matter. I think on reflection, I might have made more of committee's advice that this is a complicated piece of work and it's competing with a number of other priorities. So the update is that work is progressing. There will be something substantive coming to September committee, but I'm happy to take any questions on the matter in the meantime.
Any questions?
No questions, Chair. Just to reiterate, it is a long piece of work, and we were considering an officer, but seeing that there's no point in rushing. Suddenly you don't have to rush you. Just have an issue that will happen next year.
Grateful to our councillor.
Any other comments?
Can I ask you a question, please, Chair? Only once since I've been on the council in 2 years, I was asked to chair a committee meeting. The chair had an interest and stood out, and I was asked to chair. And I was warned beforehand that this was going to happen. So I looked in the council's standing orders, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't find anything specific to the sort of conduct of committees. Obviously, there's a lot of detail about the conduct of the full council, but
There's a line in there that the procedural rules which govern council also govern the cabinet and committee meetings. So the rules are the same. Generally speaking, with a committee where the chair is absent, the deputy chair, if the committee has one, will take the chair. If the deputy is not present or the committee doesn't have a deputy, then the members of the committee will need to elect a chair
that's
at the meeting, or for the particular item.
so we just apply the general.
Yeah, the same as you do at full council if there was a
Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any specific date that it has to be completed by and approved by?
No, Councillor Watkins. I mean, obviously, the sooner we can do it, the better. But we're not up against any mandatory or statutory deadline on this. No.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. If there's no other comments, I did watch the debate concerning this, and I'd like to align myself with the comments of the previous committee. I think that they definitely showed an insight into curbing enthusiasm, and but we recognise the stresses and strains that officers are under. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, item 5. Register of interest.
I'll do that, Chair, if that's okay. So this item committee relates to an item which went before Standards Committee recently, and Standards Committee were considering the registration of members' interest, declaration of gifts and hospitality, and so on and so forth. And as I talked about at some length in the members' training last week, the current system with regard to interests is that first members have to declare those at the start of the meeting, or when an item of business comes up at a meeting when the member realises that they have an interest. With regard to the register of interest, currently members are prompted to complete that once they're elected, and then in every election cycle, so every 5 years. That having been said, there is a duty on all members to keep the register of interests up to date and to declare any new interest to the monitoring officer within 28 days of them arising, or conversely, if something ceases to be an interest, to declare that to the monitoring officer as well, so that it can be removed from the register. What Standards Committee have agreed is that it would, or two things. One, that it would be sensible to send a reminder out to all elected members once a year, just to remind members to check their their declarations, review them, make sure they're up to date, report any changes to the monitoring officer. The second thing that Standards Committee have agreed to is a revision of the declaration of interest form. Now, what this has done on the face of it is substitute the current form for a much longer one, but the new form has a great deal more narrative on it and will provide a great deal more clarity and explanation of what members are expected to declare. So the two things put together, the intention of that is to make it easier for members to comply with their obligations with regard to the declaration of interest. You've all read the report, but those are the salient points of it. If there are any questions on that.
Just to question the procedure. In the last council, if we were appointed to a new committee or any website body, the officers would automatically update their declaration of interest. Will this happen from now on?
I don't know. I can look into that, but what I would say is that the responsibility will always sit with the elected member to ensure that the register of interest is kept up to date. So if that happens, if there is, I think because it's incumbent on members to declare it, it's probably better that members do that themselves rather than having the officers declare interest on your behalf, would be my advice.
There's something that happened.
I think maybe something else to members clarifying that that there has been a movement from the old way which we're used to the new way, and that and the council's right. So if we go on to a new committee, for example, we would it was always the case that it would be updated. Now, if the responsibility is falling back to us to update it, we need to be clear in that. And I think there's a bit of an uncertainty there. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Chair. I understand it in regards to it's up to the elected member to declare an interest. But the problem is it's the officers that actually changes the documentation on the website. So how does that then become the responsibility of the local member to ensure it's done?
I was just going to say that in the report, we've sort of said the Democratic Services team will reissue the form on an annual basis to members. So we will do that, and it can be updated, and then we update the website based on the form being returned from members.
I think I might add a couple of things, Chair, if that's okay. I mean, on Councillor Watkins' point, when the form comes into the monitoring officer, I pass that to Democratic Services, and Democratic Services upload it. So what is being uploaded in terms of interest should be a direct reflection of what the councillor has put on their declaration form. With regard to your points, Chair, I think if I can just clarify that, it makes sense to me, and I can understand why that arrangement would be in place and would continue. Obviously, Democratic Services do have a list of which members have been appointed to which external bodies, and it makes complete sense to me that they should update that. However, and I think just to clarify, whilst Democratic Services might do that, the ultimate legal responsibility sits with the member to declare that interest. Yeah. So I think as an absolute minimum, as councillors, once you've been appointed to an external body, you should at the very least check what's been uploaded to make sure that it's been uploaded accurately. Just I hope that helps. That does help.
So that falls back on the councillor to ensure that the change made through anything is actually done. So we can't have the officer then contacting the local councillor saying that the amendments have been done.
I've got no objection to that happening. I mean, I must admit I've not been in the role very long, and I don't know what that procedure looks like on the ground. You know, if that's what happens, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just making the point that, you know, as a matter of law and the Constitution, the responsibility sits with the member to satisfy themselves that the interest has been adequately reported.
Yeah. Okay. Understand that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further questions?
Yes. Yeah, I looked at the code of conduct, the appendix, and I think it's in section 4. I think there's a reference to the obligation on councillors to not engage in any discrimination in terms of, I think, race, etc. There are 6 of the protected characteristics from the Equality Act to mention. I just can't understand why in our code of conduct that we emphasise the obligation for members to show respect for 6 of the protected characteristics. We don't mention the other 3. It just struck me as a bit strange.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Councillor Cox, and part of the implementation of the new constitution will address that. I mean, as well as a constitutional responsibility, and members and officers alike have all got a statutory duty.
I understand that.
So I think there's 10 or 11 protected characteristics, and yet you're absolutely right. They need to be reflected, and that will be addressed as we put about the constitution.
Okay, thank you.
There's no other indications. Thank you. We'll move on. I think this is you, Emily, members, survey results. Thank you. On item 6.
Attempt to share. So a bit of background before we go into the survey results, but I'm sure the committee remembers back in 2022, the committee assisted in helping shape the participation plan, which was something we needed to come in after the local government elections Wales Act 2021. And following that, which was adopted by council in May 22, Democratic Services Committee developed the ward meeting framework, which was adopted by council in early 2023. So it's just a bit of background there. So a bit of a summary about how the first year of ward meetings. So the framework allows for 2 fully supported meetings per year per ward. So that's Democratic Services admin support, PR promotional support, and senior officer support during the meeting itself. And an additional meeting without senior officer support on the day in the meeting. The first round of meetings took place in summer and autumn 2023. The dates we had available for these were quite flexible. It was around the meetings themselves were around the updates on performance from service areas based on their end of year reports that have gone to council, to cabinet. And we had 5 ward meetings altogether in that round. We did have some challenges with venues. Obviously, there'd been a long hiatus between, because of COVID, there's a long hiatus where we didn't have any ward meetings. So some of the contacts have moved on and things like that. So we did have some issues booking the meetings, but yeah, we had 5 of those. And we had an update on the corporate plan, which was shared with residents. And that included how feedback from each of the different areas was reflected in the priorities of the corporate plan. And then the second round of meetings was in January, February this year. The dates were tied in with the budget consultation to encourage public engagement as part of that consultation process as per the framework. So we had a lot of meetings to book in a very small time frame. We had 19 altogether, so only 3 ward meetings didn't take place. 3 or 2? It's 2, isn't it? 2 ward meetings didn't take place during that period. So it was a very busy period, with sometimes we had back-to-back meetings, like 2 on an evening, get 2 each day. So that's it. So in terms of the actual survey, so we wanted to really find out from members and the support officers, senior support officers, their experience of the support available underpinning the framework. So we're not looking at the framework itself as part of this survey. That's obviously something that's gone through the democratic process, but we wanted to kind of get an idea of where we can make improvements within that framework. So we sent out 2 separate surveys, one to ward members and one to senior officers who supported the meetings. The survey was open for 2 weeks. We did send a reminder halfway through to kind of encourage completion. I think we had quite a healthy completion rate, really. So we had 53% of members completed it and 56% of officers. We've got quite a robust set of data. So if we look at the member feedback, firstly, I put some of the key statistics there for you to have a read through. But generally, members are fairly content with the support that's in place with ward meetings. The main area of concern that was raised by members was about the having enough time to organise and advertise the meetings before they go ahead. And several members expressed wishes to promote ward meetings in other ways other than social media. So there was a bit of a theme of an over reliance on social media to advertise the meetings, and maybe we're not meeting all of our residents' needs that way. And then conversely, one member brought up that they felt that printed leaflets were not necessary because there was advertising online and the other methods as well. So you had a bit of a difference of opinion there. But yeah, overall, it's pretty good. The only problem really was the time frame. The budget cycle. You know, the sort of consultation period is a set period of time. We have to fit the ward meeting into that time, so we are quite restricted with that one about how much lead time we have. But obviously, we try and improve on that when we can. And if I quickly look at the officers' feedback, so on the whole, slightly less happy with the support they have. I think some of the challenges that were raised by them, by the officers, is kind of things that are part and parcel with having a ward meeting, engaging with the public. So things like unsociable hours. Ward meetings need to be held when most people can attend, which generally are outside of office hours. So that's not something we can really do anything about. But yeah, there were also things raised about the short notice of meetings as well. So there's something in common with the member survey. For officers, it was more around managing their workload, work-life balance, arranging childcare, things like that. That was more an issue with that short notice. Some flagged up some health and safety concerns while visiting venues, and this was mostly around venues in rural locations, so leaving them late at night, especially in January when it's dark, car parks that aren't well lit. But kind of to offset that, we do have a risk assessment that's gone through the health and safety team, and the leads and support officers don't lone work, they work in pairs. So, you know, there's some sort of balance there. A number of officers sort of highlighted that they felt they had a lack of information, especially from the Democratic Services team, about their role and what the responsibilities during the meeting and prior to the meeting, and where there's overlap between what Democratic Services provide and what the support officers provide. Yeah, there has been a suggestion of doing a briefing before the next round to ensure that everyone is fully briefed. And then a number of officers experienced issues with the venue and or equipment. So venues I've already covered, sometimes it's mostly the location of the venues. But equipment, it could be because we have a set of equipment that we hand out to officers to support the board meetings, but during the budget cycle, because there are so many meetings, sometimes there is a bit of a delay in getting equipment back from a previous meeting to be able to give it to other officers. So sometimes they had to go without and sort of try and manage the meeting as best they could. So yeah, so that's kind of a very whistle-stop tour of the feedback. The next steps then, we will review our guidance for members and officers. So members did flag, like a number of members flagged that they weren't aware there was guidance regarding ward meetings. So we want to make sure that all members are aware of that before the next round. So we will tweak the guidance and reissue it. And for officers, we'll also do the same. And we'll also look to do briefings for officers so that they are better equipped to support meetings when they attend them. Advertising, we will meet with each of the wards to work out what's best for their ward. So if they think leaflets and posters are the way forward, the best way of promoting to the residents, or if they think social media is better, then we can work with that. Maybe not. We did sort of blanket print out X number of leaflets per ward for their meetings, but that might not always fit every ward. So we'll work with members on what they think is best. You know, the residents better. And finally, we'll look at the venues available, again, working with ward members on what venues are available, and if there's suitable equipment already is in those buildings that we can use and utilise during meetings. So yeah, that's the summary of the survey. Questions?
Thank you. Does any member have any observations, comments on that at all? No, okay. I'm glad to see that briefing for officers has been picked up. Because unless they're well briefed, we can't be well briefed either. We have to have an understanding of what, you see, if they have no understanding of their role, when we ask them, when we communicate with them, we're communicating with those who understand nothing about the role. So we need to have that collective understanding. Maybe going forward, I don't know, but maybe finding a way of planning in advance. So we should know 12 months in advance what we're doing next year with regards to meetings. So if we plan for a year September, say, or year October, then everybody would have a better understanding, and it would be easier then to manage. At the moment, I feel that what we're placed with is holding a meeting, and none of us are really supported. So we need to have that support all around. And if we've done that a year in advance, then lines of communication could include meeting dates advertised on a regular basis throughout the Newport Matters paper. Also, so the people are picking it up and seeing it and knowing. Yes, Councillor.
Just following on what you say, Chair, I don't know what other people's experience was, but I don't know if there was any record kept of the numbers of people attending these meetings in terms of members of the public. Because, I mean, I've only got the experience of Killeen, but and it was the second cycle, the budget meeting, that first of all, I had no complaints at all about the officers. They were great. They came along, they brought all the, PowerPoint equipment with them. They set it all up. It was all extremely efficient. That was great. No problem with the venue. But we had one person turn up, and he didn't even want to talk about the budget. He wanted to talk about something else. Obviously, I'm conscious of the pressure on officers. They organised that meeting. Obviously, took a lot of time and effort and took up officers' time. In fact, in the end, it did not contribute anything to the consultation on the budget. Now, does that mean that there was nobody in Killeen interested in this year's council budget? Well, I can tell you for sure that's not true. But I mean, I don't know what the answer is to this, but I think it's an issue that he's thinking about, whether it's the way we present the consultation. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is enormously important. And whether it's the way we present the consultation, whether it was the way we advertised it, or I don't know, but for some reason, in fact, we didn't get one person to turn up to talk about the budget, basically.
I just want to follow on what Stephen was saying. I had exactly the same in Norway. There was more officers and councillors there. There was one person turned up, and she didn't want to talk about the budget. It's like you're saying, it's not they're not interested. The ward I'm in, Norway, it's widespread. So we hold a ward meeting every Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays, and it's in different parts. So we pick up different parts of our ward. When you get them all come together, is an hard thing to do. But most of these issues, I'm sure the same as you pick up in your ward meetings, you come and they have their moan and groan and so when it came to the budget, everybody was already well informed, and they thought. So I think what should go along is I agree with the meeting, especially after budgets and things like that. But consult the councillors a bit more. Do you need this meeting? And we can say, well, no, we think it'd be a waste of time. We've already spoken to our residents about this, or yes, we'd love to have this meeting. Because last time I tried to tell it was a bit rushed.
Yeah.
Because we ended up having it in the church hall where we've never had a ward meeting before. But as you were saying, the officers and everything else, they was absolutely brilliant. They came with all their equipment. I felt sorry for them. They set all their equipment up. A cup of tea made, they sat down and we sat there for. Well, the tea went cold. One person turned up, disappeared. And said, I think it's best to pack up. But as for the officers and everything else, he was well informed. You know, they went through with us. It was fantastic. But as for the meeting itself, I think it was a waste of resources. Not knocking anything, but I had the same experience as you. One person turned up and she was talking about bats in the garden. They want to bring that back.
Before I begin, Mike, can I bring in Councillor Steady and then maybe you can answer the questions.
I just want to agree with the fellow councillors, exactly the same mayor award as well. We had 3 turnout. And I believe we had lots of leaflets delivered to us. We had thousands of leaflets delivered. And we just put them out in the shops. There was no way we could get the leaflets put out there. But it was just short, not really short notice. I know it's our first year, so we can only improve. So I think it's worth doing, definitely. And I think it will get more attended over the years. And residents will start to learn it. January, February is the budget. And, you know, it will sink into their minds eventually. But it's the first year for us, really. So
I guess one of the most successful meetings we had in our ward, or meetings yet, there was more than one, was the revised local development plan. So whatever way of advertising that was done, I can't remember which way it was done. We were averaging 25, 30 people in attendance from 2 different areas, like your area, Tim. Ours is spread, so we would have 4 regional areas, and we were only allowed to hold them in 2 at that time. So, but we had a far more effective uptake. So looking at maybe how that model was run, or maybe the replacement local development plan sparked more of an interest because it looked in detail at the number of proposals for houses and you know, doctor surgeries and schools and highway infrastructure. These were all talking points. So I accept what's being said. Yes. So,
I think Catherine really has closed it out by saying she'll talk to the ward members and try and get whatever they want within reason to put forward.
I think so. Mike.
Yeah, I thought the contributions that you've all made have been quite interesting actually, and I suppose just to pick up Councillor Harvey's point, I mean, it's about seeing whether it is necessary in all wards. I think what I would caution about is if you don't want to, well, you might want to consider the perception of the council if we were to start holding these meetings in some wards and not others, and how that might be perceived as a wider piece. I suppose what it would be interesting, and as Catherine said, there's going to be discussions with members about this as the next round of meetings are planned, but it'd be interesting to get the feedback. I mean, you know, a few of you have said only one person's turned up. Completely get that that's disheartening for members and officers alike, isn't it, if you're going to want to do that? But, you know, is it, get your feedback on, you know, is it that people don't want that sort of meeting, or is there a way that we could be publicising it differently?
the month after, we had 35 residents turn up.
Right.
Hit and miss. And the other thing, it rained that night. It's miserable January.
I think you made an interesting point as well that you know, it's gathering pace after the pandemic, and it might be interesting to see if there's any natural growth in it as the, you know, as the thing gathers pace over the next few years.
Yeah.
just to come back on Mike's point, prior to the pandemic, some wards never ever had meetings. And, you know, it's welcome that you're trying to do this again, but particularly in a split ward where you've got more than one political party, we've got to get all the councillors to agree to have a ward meeting. So there's no one thing fits all. So, you know, it's better now than it was prior to the pandemic, but if it was don't want it, you can't force it on them.
I can only speak for my ward, is when they got something to say, they'll ask for the meeting, will give them a meeting, and they will turn up. But that's, even if you wanted to take a so they can say, okay, we'll have a meeting by the end of the week, which we thought this anyway. And we'll fill a hole. But once they've had to say, but if you say to them, oh, we're holding a meeting on, they're not interested, they just won't turn up. So, you know, so I see where it is. It's not I'm against these meetings, and I think people should be done. But they've got to be a better way of doing it, just to save everybody's time, everybody's money. That's what I'm saying. This is my ward. We hold a meeting in Always Centre on Monday. Wednesday we hold one in the Hope Centre, and we hold one in the Presbyterian Church, which is Beechwood, and then one right at the top on Avenue in the centre there. That's how spread out the ward is. Now we might hold one in Always Centre, might only get one or two people coming with complaints, but then we'll get the same in the Hope Centre and the same in the church, and then we'll get the same. If you had them all in one hall, you know, in one meeting, you'd have an all. But because it's spread out, it don't look a lot. When you get in 5 or 6 years, 5 or 6 years, 5 or 6 years, once they come in with their complaints and you sort them out, you know, you can say, oh, well, like we've had a big thing with some of them, the degeneration, some of them. We've had countless meetings with city owners over the regeneration, and they'll come to their work meetings and we'll say, all right, do you want us to have a meeting? We'll get the officers and explain that. Oh, no, we're fine, we're fine. You know, so we could do that, but we know then they wouldn't turn up for that sort of thing. I don't know, it's awkward for you, it's awkward for us. Like Phil was saying, I'm a new councillor, but my wife being a councillor, I've always worked along the council's great trouble. Yes. And they would say in the past, oh, don't hold the public, it does nothing but cause trouble, you know, the old fellas. And I can never remember in my ward, many ward meetings, unless there was something people were up in arms about, and then you would get an awful. Otherwise, it's like the last one we had say one person to them. It's not they're not interested. I think they're already getting that information by our ward meetings, if you get what I mean. I don't know whether we follow this. So good luck to you. It's not I'm against them. I welcome them.
I mean, the direction of travel, sorry to interrupt you, I mean, the direction of travel has been agreed in that the meetings are going to take place and officers are going to support them. I think the discussion in the medium term is how to best facilitate that. And obviously we will take on board member feedback, and that's invaluable actually, because you.
And most of our advertising too by social media. I think at the moment we've got about 15,000 followers. They're not all our ward, obviously, but you know, once word gets out, it gets out. As for leaflets, the wards asked for it, seems needless.
Yeah. The budget consultation, right, is tight time frame because it is a set period, and it's a little bit. So talking about booking meetings maybe a year in advance, I think the summer ones potentially you could do that more effectively. But the budget, it has floated between before Christmas, after Christmas, things like that. So that can be difficult then, because you've got a short lead time to get those out. But yeah, absolutely. I think everything you said is come across in the responses anyway. And I think it's things we're aware of, and we want to the things we can work on, like improving the advertising, the promotion, working with the ward members and public relations on the best way forward. That again, the message that we have these meetings and you can come along to them and have to say. I think where we can make those changes within the framework, then we will, do that. Yeah.
And great to see a bit more notice. So we can get them out and then see what the response is. We can always get back and then say, we're having a good response. I only think, oh, we've had no response. I think it's going in for another day. If that makes sense to you.
I think some of the, do you want to speak?
No.
I think some of, just to, bring it together, and please, feel free to add or to, object. So we are supportive of the direction, and as Councillor Hoovering has suggested, that, we recognise that you're going to work closely with individual ward members or individual wards, and just take on board, as you've said, the comments made by the committee. And you know, I suppose we look forward to a further update as we go along to see how this has progressed. But there's not one road forward. So. Are there any other comments? See anybody online or anything? Okay, thank you for that. The forward work programme is before you. That you to take us through this.
I can do, Chair, yeah, of course. So in the next meeting, which is in September, you'll have the Head of Democratic Services annual report and the Democratic Services Committee annual report. You'll then also get it'll most likely be an update on the independent remuneration panel. That'll be the draft report. And then again, hopefully from Mike, then we'll get a substantive report on the model constitution. Then in November, you'll get a report on participation strategy and again, the model constitution. And then in March 2025, there'll be an update on member training and then the final independent remuneration panel report then, which will be sort of just for information only.
Okay, are we content with that at the moment? We all know that we can add to is the work programme to go forward. Is there anything? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. If I might, when we get the Head of Democratic Services annual report, will that consider how the general election has gone in terms of Newport's input into it? Because I'm conscious that we've had a reorganisation in Democratic Services, and the Democratic Services manager has taken over responsibility for a post that was standalone previously. So I'd like to know how it's worked out and if there are any resource implications that we should be considering.
Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly touch on that. We can certainly touch on that. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a massive report, but just to close that report.
Yes, good idea. And yes, you can contact and add to it in the usual format. The date of the next meeting is on Thursday, the 5th of September. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. I think we've agreed to a 9:30 pre-meet. So that will reflect in the minutes when they're sent out.
It will, and I'll just for the committee to know, I'll change the invites, the team's invites that I've sent out to reflect those changes as well.
Thank you very much indeed. And with that, can I thank you all for your participation today, and just wish you all a good summer going forward. I hope the sun continues to shine, and I wish you well. Thank you.
I hope the sun starts to shine.